Alright, I've made the basic movement, resource gathering, crafting, and farming, all essentials for any survival game. Let's see how people like it so far. Oh no. As you can tell, I've gotten tons of comments telling me my game has already been made. So now that I've made a few core mechanics, I'm ready to show you what my game really has to offer. I'm going to be diving deep into the lore and explaining why you're controlling a robot and really lean into the mechanics that come with that. If you don't want any story details spoiled, skip to this timestamp. But for everyone else, gather around and let's get into this. In my last video, I revealed that you're not actually playing as a robot, but instead as a boy controlling a robot. Super simple, I know. The year is 21 something. Not important. Just know it's the future. Robots and automation have taken over every industry. Unfortunately, our main character comes from a very poor farming family. They can't afford the fancy new robot models that do all the work for them, so the whole family has to help out around the farm. Well, except our boy. Sadly, our boy is paralyzed and stuck in a wheelchair. Until one day, when his family finally saved up enough money to buy a very old robot, who still needs a name by the way if any of you have any ideas. Anyways, nowadays all robots are completely controlled by an AI, but all your family can afford is one of the old manual models. But because it is manual, the boy can control it, allowing him to help out even more than most of his family. Now skipping ahead a bit as to not spoil everything, definitely not because I haven't figured out the whole story, the main robot AI becomes corrupted, so the government indiscriminately sends all robots to a distant island. Not 100% sure how they do this yet, but think a laser beam comes down and any robot within it is teleported. This includes everything, robots, buildings run by AI, and yes, even you and your robot. Fortunately, since your control center was in your house, the house comes with you, allowing the boy to bunker down somewhere and use the robot to help him survive. So whenever you jump into a new game, you will fall onto a random spot on the island, but you have to be careful because you aren't the only ones teleported here. I know in my first video I mentioned COD zombies, so a lot of people thought the main enemies would be zombies. That's my bad for explaining it poorly, but instead of zombies, I think it would be way cooler if all the enemies were corrupted robots. This way there can be more variety in the enemy type and makes it possible to even harvest useful materials off of them to improve your own robot. Whew, okay, sorry for that whole lore dump. Now telling you is one thing, but actually making it is another. So without any delay, let's get into it. I started by fixing a small bug from last time. I wanted the pop-ups to stack differently when picking an item up, and I found all you needed to do was switch a few boxes. Told you it was going to be simple. Moving on. I knew I was going to do a lot of work involving the UI, so I decided to make it prettier first. After what seemed like forever, I had made it much better. I also tidied up the crafting menu after taking some inspiration from Raft. I know. In the video about making my game unique, I immediately used another game for inspiration. I'm getting there, I swear. Now that everything is looking nice, I added a chest to the game. Another groundbreaking feature, I know. Hey look, there it is. Yep, that's the chest, and it's currently working. Well, minus it only moving items that are in your inventory, but after a bit of coding, I got it working between the two. But as you can see, the chest starts with the same inventory as you. So I made a quick randomization feature where there's a chance for any item to appear in any spot, and it works like a charm if I say so myself. All that was left to do was make a terrible model and make it possible to craft and place anywhere. And boom, a perfect chest. Real quick, I get a lot of comments saying that my modeling skills are not good. And I know, but I live by the motto, make work now, make pretty later. So don't worry, I will get to it. Okay, remember the part where I promised I'd be making this game unique? Well, this is it. In most survival games, you have a lot of status bars to keep track of. Health bar, stamina bar, hunger bar, temperature bar, carry capacity, just too many things. Well, as a robot, we don't need any of this. Instead, we just have to have a health bar and an energy bar. Health bars work like you'd expect. It goes down when you take damage, like by touching water. Yep, water will do damage to you. Just wait till it rains. Now the energy bar might just seem like a reskinned stamina bar, and you'd be right, but robots use energy, so it's a little different. You'll always be losing a set amount of energy whether you're sprinting or standing still, because using more energy when you run is the worst game mechanic ever, and every game that does it makes me very angry. Who walks in video games? However, while sprinting won't decrease your energy, everything else will. Planting, watering, chopping, it all uses energy. You'll want to keep an eye on this because if it runs out, you'll be unable to attack or farm. But don't worry, you can still run because walking is torture. I'd rather not be able to attack than not be able to run. Maybe that's just me, but it's my game and I ain't walking. If you ever get low on energy, I made my first consumable, a battery. Disclaimer, batteries are not edible. Please do not eat batteries in real life. But consuming a battery in a game gives you more energy. Now to lean into the robot theme even harder, I made it so all the tools come out of your hand instead of him holding them like every other game. This is pretty minor for the tools, but the bucket turns into more of a nozzle like you'd see on a hose. Is this functionally any different? No, but it's fun. But don't worry, this isn't going to be a game where you build rock tools and steel tools, etc. But instead there will be a progression of different items to make, like drills and chainsaws and solar panels, and maybe even a flamethrower. That's right, the first new tool I added is a flamethrower. Right now it uses a lot of energy when firing, but I might change it to use a special ammo type as it is way too powerful right now. Okay, that's enough focus on the robot. What about the boy? What about the farming? As you can see, the robot has no use for a carrot, but the boy would rather eat that than a battery. So now after you finish growing your carrots, you can head over to your house. Yep, that's as good as it's gonna get for now. And place them inside the food supply. Every food item you have has a different value, but since all I have is carrots at the moment, they're only worth 1. This inventory keeps track of how much food your boy has, and it will deplete once I get the day-night cycle incorporated. I even made it so you could only add food items, so you can't just use it as an extra chest. Now like I said, you're not the only thing that was brought to this island, so I started updating the prefab spawner. As of now, I just had the spawner spawn all the trees and rocks at a random spot on the island. This makes the entire island feel exactly the same. So to improve this, I made the spawner spawn regular trees as well as a few forest spawners. This works great. As you can see, the island now has areas completely covered by trees, and areas that hardly have any. I even made it so that there's a camp that spawns within the forest, so when exploring you might come across this camp and find a free chest. The spawning system is easily expandable, so I'll be able to add special points of interest as soon as I find the time to make it. But for now, I made it so that you and your home spawn at a different location every time you load up the game, so you won't always start in the middle. And with that, my game is really getting some personality now. Of course, there are plenty of other features I want to add, but those are for future devlogs. I think the next video we're finally going to introduce some enemies and combat, so get excited. In the meantime, you should check out this video. I was super proud of it, so please?